Chapter 49. We moved together, shifting slowly, until Bella was above me, an angel hovering in the heavens over the fallen. The faintest light was moving into the sky, filtering through the glass doors to reflect off the white-blue sky of the walls, giving her skin the slightest diamond sheen. Her movements were slower, relieved of the frenzy after many hours, but all the more potent in their aching depth and power. I reached out and touched one luminescent cheek, and she placed her hand over mine, keeping it against her skin. Her grip tightened and tightened until a consuming release came, soft eyes gradually opening to reveal brilliant pyres of love. Her body relaxed to lie against mine in a peaceful silence, broken only by the gentle, lilting tune of a songbird outside.
"Do you miss it?"
she asked quietly. "Miss what?" I spoke with my lips pressed to her neck.
"All of it. The warmth, the soft skin, that tasty smell. I'm not losing anything at all. And I just wondered if it was a little bit sad for you that you were."
I laughed gently, wondering how she could think that anything about her lovely, splendid body, that anything in this moment could possibly make me sad. It would be hard to find someone less sad than I am now. Impossible, I'd venture. Not many people get every single thing they want, plus all the things they didn't think to ask for, in the same day.
"Are you avoiding the question?"
she murmured. I could hear the doubt in her voice, and sighed. Holding her close with my hands around her back, I moved so that we lay on our sides, face to face. I remembered my thoughts on this, while Bella had lain sleeping, still changing. I had felt a simple melancholy at the loss of the unique human in the girl I loved, taking solace that it would be preserved in the face of our daughter. But what I realized now was that her humanity was not lost at all, for her human face and body, her scent, feel and voice, were forever enshrined in my mind. When I closed my eyes, I could see the face that changed my existence, the features of the girl that I fell in love with. Her human presence was indelibly imprinted on my consciousness for eternity. Bella's memories of her mortal image would fade quickly for her, but not for me. I would carry them always. And yet, although I cherished her humanity, what I also now understood was that I did not miss her human frailties and the boundaries they created between us. I had once wished that I could be human, so I could be with her without fear of hurting or even killing her, and I would have become so in an instant if it had been in the range of possibility. But now she was like me, and with every exquisite movement, with each shared moment of abandon, I was intoxicated by the exhilarating freedom of being physical equals. She was everything, in every way. I moved my hand around so it pressed against her cheek, no longer heated, fragile silk, but a temperate, lustrous canvas. "You are warm," I whispered. I slid my finger along her jaw, trailing down her neck, and savoring each part of the skin along her chest and waist. She let out a throaty breath, her eyes unfocusing slightly. "You are soft." I inhaled her aroma of sweet flowers, no burn coating my throat. And as far as the scent, well, I couldn't say I missed that. Do you remember the scent of those hikers on our hunt? Bella grimaced.
I've been trying very hard not to.
Imagine kissing that. Bella's eyes tensed slightly, and her hand slid up to her throat.
Oh.
Precisely. I wrapped both arms around her again and pressed her tightly to me. So the answer is no. I am purely full of joy, because I am missing nothing. No one has more than I do now. I dragged a hand up her back, fisting her hair and crushing her mouth to mine, rising so that now I was above her, the dark angel this time, looking down on the innocent below. As we stilled later in the increasing morning light, I knew we were approaching the time Renesmee would wake, if she hadn't already. She would be looking for us, for Bella. My senses screamed in protest at the thought of letting Bella go, and she seemed equally consumed with me. But it wasn't fair of me to take advantage of her overwhelming desires, even if they matched mine. I thought about one of the conversations we had had during the night, about balance. Right now, I needed to be the responsible one, to help remind Bella of her priorities, when her mind and body prevented it. And I knew what Bella's top priority would be this morning, even if it felt her body was telling her something different. "Renesmee," I said quietly, a gentle reminder, stroking her neck with my thumb. She sighed, shifting her body away slightly, her loss an immediate blow to my system. Then her expression darkened, her brow furrowed with worry, and I felt her muscles stiffen. Distracted from me now, the lost hours with Renesmee were clearly totaling in her mind. "It's all right, love," I said gently. "Get dressed, and we'll be back to the house in 2 seconds. Bella nodded, and then rose swiftly, heading towards the closet, before pausing and swirling her head back to look at me. I looked at her questioningly as she glanced away towards the wall, in the direction of the house and Renesmee, before looking back at me. As she repeated this movement several times, I realized she was betraying her newborn status, her competing desires wreaking havoc in her newborn brain. I smiled, beyond pleased that being with me presented such a tantalizing option for her. "It's all about balance, love," I reminded her. And, as she had already shown the ability to balance her newborn thirst, I was sure she would learn to control these other desires. "You're so good at all of this. I don't imagine it will take too long to put everything in perspective."
"And we have all night, right?"
she asked, a flash of want in her expression. Great minds think alike. "Do you think I could bear to let you get dressed now if that weren't the case?" I said with a grin, my eyes roving her naked form. She nodded seriously, her expression darkened again, worry creasing her face, and she whipped over to the closet, throwing open the doors and exposing row upon row of clothing, hand-picked by Alice. I remembered having to endure 2 months of constant whittling down by Alice about the size of the original closet, before Esme, with rare exasperation, had relented on the expanded closet.
"Do what you want," she had muttered. "I just don't want to know."
Bella let out a fairly menacing hiss at the sight, her eyes moving restlessly around. "Which ones are mine?" she growled. I sighed, remembering Alice's plans. I touched a bar of clothing to the left of the door, which I knew contained several Brioni suits and tuxedos, as well as my standard khakis, white shirts, and sweaters. Alice had, over the years, slowly come to accept what I would and would not wear. I worried how long it would take for her to get to that point with Bella. Judging from the assortment of cocktail dresses and evening gowns hanging on the racks, I guessed it would be a while before she gave up. "To the best of my knowledge, everything but this rack here is yours," I said.
"All of this?"
Bella snapped. I shrugged. This was Alice we were talking about, and even worse, Alice given free rein. "Alice," I said with resignation.
"Alice,"
Bella spit out at the same time. When I didn't offer any other explanation, she rolled her eyes.
"Fine,"
she muttered, grabbing the nearest garment bag, unzipping it, and exposing a light pink evening gown. Bella growled in horror. I smothered laughter, thinking it would just infuriate her further. "Let me help," I said soothingly, touching her arm. My Bella would want jeans and a t-shirt, and I was fairly certain Alice would have bought a few. I inhaled deeply, bringing a mixture of scents down into my throat. Bella's floral nectar, mixed with a sharp pang of cedar, and a kaleidoscope of different materials, smothered in plastic. I moved further inside the room, discerning each individual scent and separating them in my mind. As I judged the distance and direction, I easily discarded anything synthetic, and then weeded out the light, refined scents of silk and satin. I concentrated on the inky, heavy fragrance of denim, which seemed to be located in the back, laden with the smell of wood rather than plastic. I moved away from the rows of garment bags and towards the cedar-lined bureau at the back. I pulled open a drawer and smiled, pulling out a pair of jeans. Bella was instantly at my side.
"How did you do that?"
she asked, her eyes wide. "Denim has its own scent, just like anything else." I kissed her cheek. "Now, stretch cotton." I walked back into the closet, searching for the clean, organic smell of cotton, finding a plain white shirt buried in the racks, almost as if Alice was trying to hide it. As Bella got dressed, I moved over to my small section, unzipping a bag to uncover a matched outfit of pants and a sweater. It was hard to admit that rather than feel insulted by being spoon-fed my outfits by Alice, I had rather grown used to the ease of it. I pulled the outfit on, turning to find Bella distracted again, sniffing at the clothes, clearly memorizing the scents. I gave her a moment and then took her hand. She glanced up, her thoughts clearly swinging back to Renesmee, and I let her pull me out the back door. We jumped the stone wall and were running full out immediately. She pulled away, flying forward, as she glanced back at me with a glint in her eyes.
"Race?"
she questioned. I grinned, taking on her challenge. She might as well learn, sooner rather than later, what the rest of my family already knew. I was not to be beaten for speed. After several seconds, during which time I pulled ahead of Bella, keeping in front, but close enough to retreat back to her quickly if needed, my family's thoughts filtered into my mind. Alice had already told them we were coming back.
"About time,"
Alice thought.
"I hope she's dressed properly. I'm counting on you."
I could see that Renesmee was awake already. Gathering from what I saw in my family's minds, it seemed there had been several moments of panic when Renesmee awoke, wailing when Bella was not produced immediately. Several various toys and household items had been destroyed, and Jasper and Emmett's improv attempts at comedy had been soundly rejected, before Esme, in desperation, and knowing Nessie liked shiny objects, had garnered her attention with an antique silverware set.
"She's demanding to see Bella,"
Rose thought, hearing our approach. She and Emmett were sitting on the floor next to the baby. Nessie's mind was a jumble of images of Bella and me. She was also thirsty. She twisted a silver knife into a ball before reaching up to touch Emmett's throat, showing him a picture of Bella. Emmett snorted. "I told you, kid. Mommy's, well, kinda busy. Right, lover boy?" With a sigh, I took the river in a leap, slowing as I approached the house so Bella and I could enter together. As we came into view up the lawn, Nessie latched onto the side of Bella, tossing aside a mangled piece of silverware and pointing demandingly towards her with a small finger.
"Mommy! Mommy!"
Everyone turned, smiling and laughing, to watch as Bella, whose excitement mirrored her daughter's, flew into the room and scooped her up. Bella hugged her tightly and then looked her over, touching her growing curls and smoothing her hands over Renesmee's lengthening limbs. At a glance, I could tell her growth was continuing to slow. Jacob will be pleased, I thought, looking around but not seeing him. Alice whipped her head towards me, her eyes narrowed.
"Jeans and a t-shirt? She wasn't supposed to find those. That was the best you could do?"
Esme was glowing up at me.
"Alice said she loved the cottage,"
she thought, a pleased smile on her face. I nodded, smiling back. Emmett winked at me. "So how did it go? Glad to see she left you in one piece. I was a little worried." Renesmee touched Bella's face, her mind filled with the image and scent of a bottle of blood, flickering in with pictures of Bella. She wanted her mother to feed her. I frowned, certain that was probably not a good idea. Not yet. I headed into the kitchen to prepare a bottle before she grew too insistent.
"How long has she been up?"
I heard Bella ask.
"Just a few minutes,"
said Rose.
"We would have called you soon. She's been asking for you. Demanding might be a better description. Esme sacrificed her second-best silver service to keep the little monster entertained." My little angel, Rose thought, in direct competition with her words. Then she looked up at Bella with a smirk. "We didn't want to, bother you."
Emmett laughed. "Yeah, and hopefully we would have been interrupting something."
"We'll get your room set up right away,"
Bella said to Renesmee, clearly trying to ignore him.
"You'll like the cottage. It's magic."
She turned to my mother.
"Thank you, Esme, so much. It's absolutely perfect."
"The cottage made it through the night?" Emmett burst out laughing. "Only you, Edward, could go at it all night inside that little wooden box and leave it in one piece." "So it's still standing?" he choked out. "I would have thought the two of you had knocked it to rubble by now. What were you doing last night? Discussing the national debt?" I could hear Bella's teeth grinding as I twisted the top securely on Renesmee's cup, my throat stinging slightly from the scent. I was rather hoping Bella would snap and give Emmett what he deserved.
"Where are the wolves today?"
she asked instead.
"Jacob took off this morning pretty early,"
Rose said.
"Seth followed him out."
I froze, slightly shocked. Jacob had left? I searched the surrounding area as far out as I could go, but I could not sense him. After refusing to leave Renesmee's side for a moment, except for the necessity of confronting Sam. I could not believe he had left voluntarily. It felt off, leaving an uncertain weight in my stomach. I scanned Rose's mind, seeing a vision of her memory. Jacob's strained and worried eyes as he had left silently, phasing at the edge of the yard and moving away. Smoothing my expression to hide my concern, I went back into the room. "What was he so upset about?" I asked casually. I stayed back from Bella, but saw her shoulders stiffen, her eyes on the cub. She stopped breathing, and Jasper took a step towards her, his face serious but calm. "She's okay." Bella handed Nessie quickly to Rose.
"I don't know, or care,"
Rose muttered, grabbing the cup from me and angling it towards Nessie, who wrapped her hands around it and started taking long pulls.
"He was watching Nessie sleep, his mouth hanging open like the moron he is, and then he just jumped to his feet without any kind of trigger, that I noticed anyway, and stormed out. And good riddance."
I frowned at her. That didn't seem likely. There had to be something that precipitated his leaving. Could he have heard something dangerous approaching? I glanced out the front window. Was Sam's pack rethinking our agreement? But then why wouldn't Jacob tell my family if he was concerned? Rose adjusted Nessie in her arms, tipping the cup back further as it quickly emptied.
"I was glad to be rid of him. The more time he spends here, the less chance there is we'll ever get that smell out."
"Rose," said Esme disapprovingly.
"I suppose it doesn't matter. We won't be here much longer. And then we'll be rid of him permanently."
"I still say we should go straight to New Hampshire and get things set up," said Emmett. I glanced at him and realized this was the discussion he and Rose had been having earlier, when Jacob had left. I sighed. Didn't they have any idea what our leaving would mean for Jacob? This had been, I imagined, what had upset him, although I was surprised he would respond by leaving the house. Perhaps he was making arrangements to follow us if we left, as I suspected he would. Rose and Em should have been more discreet with the conversation. "Edward's gonna kill you." I caught Seth's thought, just coming into my range. He was running full out towards the house in wolf form, flanking Jacob along with Leah.
"I think maybe you deserve it this time,"
Leah thought with disgust.
"You're such a freaking idiot sometimes. Billy is going to be furious."
I had to do something, Jacob thought. I had to explain to Charlie. He needed to know. It was the right thing to do. I stiffened, motionless with shock. Jacob had been to see Charlie. "What the hell? I'm glad I told him," Jacob continued, his mind tense and wired. "He'll come now, and once he understands, it will all be out in the open, and they won't have to leave. She won't have to leave." An image flickered in his mind of Charlie's stricken face, followed by a view through the trees of Charlie getting into his car and driving away from town. Coming here. A furious growl burst out of me. That little rat had gone to Charlie, betrayed us all by telling him God knows what, and lured him here, putting his life, all of our lives, in jeopardy.
"What is he doing?"
Alice suddenly shrieked. She had been pursuing visions of the afternoon, her and Jasper hunting, as well as a great deal of time with Bella in the new closet. Everything had just disappeared.
"What is that dog doing that has erased my schedule for the entire day? I can't see anything."
She struggled again, searching for the image of her dressing up Bella in the closet, but it was completely gone.
"No!"
she cried, turning to Bella.
Look at you! You need me to show you how to use your closet.
What's going on, Edward? Carlyle thought in alarm. Has Jacob done something? He talked to Charlie, I growled. He thinks Charlie is following him, coming here, today. There was a collective gasp.
Shit!
Alice squealed.
Her eyes!
She turned, flying out the door.
Contacts!
Jasper watched her go with worried eyes, and then whipped towards me. Damn it! What the hell, Edward?
He told Charlie?
Bella cried.
But doesn't he understand? How could he do that? No!
Carlyle took a step towards me. Should we prepare to leave? I considered, but shook my head slightly. Jacob would be here in a moment, and we might as well wait until he arrived to assess. Frankly, I'd like the pleasure of killing him first, before we made any other arrangements. The wolves were pausing at the edge of the woods, to phase and dress. Edward's gonna know what you did, thought Seth. They'll be waiting. Edward will see that I'm right, once I explain. I hissed softly, and Jacob cocked his head towards the house. If they let you explain, Leah snarled. There were sounds of phasing, and then 3 sets of footsteps across the lawn.
Where is that future pile of ground chuck?
Rose thought furiously, clutching Nessie. Jacob's on his way in now, I growled. Jacob came through the door, wet and reeking more than usual. His eyes were alert, adrenaline coursing through him. He had a smile of mock confidence on his face that didn't match his demeanor. His anxiety betrayed intense movements. His eyes went immediately to Renesmee, relief and love flooding through him at the sight of her, before glancing around to meet our eyes. Hey guys, he said, grinning cheerfully. At his words, the room spun red in an instant, and I fought the natural urge to lunge at him, his casual cheerfulness infuriating me further. My family was silent, regarding him. Rose flicked her eyes towards me.
Now can we finally kill him?
Jacob regarded my dark eyes. Chill out, Edward. It's better this way. You'll see. I didn't move, didn't acknowledge him, staying still as I struggled to control my reaction. Rose, Bella said suddenly, her voice low and determined. She reached out for the baby, and Rose gave her over. I was surprised Bella wanted to hold her in such a charged environment, but she must have had a reason. Charlie'll be here soon, Jacob said, as he moved his gaze to Bella. Just a heads up. I assume Alice is getting you some sunglasses or something? Bella sucked in a furious breath. You assume too much, she spit out between gritted teeth. What have you done?